Yo, got my man right here with me, man. My brother Halim. This the second interview. We did the first interview a couple of days ago with my buddy Dave Bailey. This is my brother right here. We come up, sandbox. We from the womb to the tomb. Today, I think this is going to be a special interview. There were some things that came down the pipe in regards to various legislation, in regards to DC Home Rule. These different things are going to Congress. Unfortunately, we don't really have a voice in Congress, but people need to tap in, see what's going on, understand what's going on, and just see how the little bit of autonomy that we do have here in the District of Columbia is under attack. But my main reason, as I said, I ain't gonna really deviate about these stories that I'm trying to put forth, is in reference to one particular piece of legislation in particular, which is the IRA bill, Second Look Amendment Act, which was like the third version of the IRA, and the possibility of that being repealed. In addition to that, they got some things going on where they trying to lower the age in Title 16 to 14, where a person can be just waived at the age of 14 and charged as an adult. The Youth Act is under threat. There's so many different things that's under threat. What I want to do is just demonstrate some of these stories with the guys who came home, was locked up as kids, did a substantial amount of time, and the great things that they're doing now, and the impact that they're having locally, nationally, and even globally. So I got my buddy Halim right here, and the first thing that I really want to get into with him, I know a lot of y'all are familiar with the story, but for the sake of this, we're going to run through a few things and just, he going to put the people down with some of the stuff that he got going on and the impact that he's had here in the city and then at the world, in the world at large. So the first thing, bro, I want to get in with you is, how old were you when you went to prison?
When I was arrested, I was 16 years of age.
You were 16 years old, and they charged you through Title 16?
Yep, through Title 16.
Through Title 16. And what was you initially charged for?
First degree murder.
First degree murder. And ultimately, you was convicted, correct?
Yes.
And how much time did you receive?
I received concurrent terms of 40 years of life and 20 years of life. Okay.
And during the time when you was convicted, where did they send you at?
Initially, I was at DC Jail, Department of Corrections, then Lorton, Virginia, a maximum security facility in Virginia. Then I was contracted to the state of Virginia, Sussex 2 State Prison. And then from Sussex 2 State Prison, Federal Prison, United States Penitentiary, Lewisburg in Pennsylvania, FCI Farrington in New Jersey, USP Atlanta, Georgia, FCI Gilmer, West Virginia, USP Atwater in California, and then back to DC jail.
So let's go back a minute. When you were sent from DC jail after you was convicted, and you went to maximum security in Lord, how old was you at that time?
I was 17.
You were 17?
Yes.
And what type of impact did that have on you?
With the energy of a 17-year-old child being placed inside of a very small cell, 23 hours and 40 minutes a day. You only got a chance to come out on the tier for 20 minutes. And that was only 3 days a week. And then you got outside rec for an hour Monday through Friday. But you know, when you have a lot of energy as a child, it's just very dehumanizing, it was very dehumanizing, very traumatic. I just didn't have access to that language at the time because I didn't have the privilege of attaching the word trauma to me. But looking back on it and having more access to the English lexicon, it was cruel and unusual to the human condition. Inhumane and very traumatic.
Okay, and let me ask you this. I know that, because I know you personally, but when you was on the street, you grew up in the crack era, you grew up at a time where you had the war on drugs, Everything was about locking people up, throwing away the key, based upon different versions of crime that was going on in the city. So much so that you had congressional hearings where guys like you and I during that time were called super predators, right? So, not to get into the particulars of all that, but at what point during, I guess, your incarceration did you make a transition, whether it was a mental thing or a spiritual thing, from being the way that you was when you were in society as a young man to gradually evolving into who you are now?
It's a great question, because people ask me, when did I change? And I often express to people that I never changed. And so I just evolved. So I say that to say is that I was a gifted and talented, academic student in the DC public schools. I just lived in a very dangerous community that I wanted to escape, because I saw so many children dying and going to jail and prison. And so I started to sell drugs at the age of 12 and stopped going to school. So when I went to prison, I really didn't change. I still had the desire to engage in self-enterprise, right? But I had better mentors in prison, and I had evolved and started to read more information and meet different people in federal prison from throughout the world. And so instead of me selling drugs to make money, I met a guy who was a mentor, Michael Norwood, who had a publishing company. And even though he was incarcerated, he said he had a successful publishing company. And he mentored me and showed me how I could not only start my own publishing company to tell my story, but also how through telling my story outside of the prison walls, that it can lead to change in legislation that could ultimately get me out. And so I just say that to say is that happened when I was 21, 22.
Okay.
When I wrote my first book.
Okay.
But the process of the age of 16 to the age of 21, 22, the creativity began in society as a freestyle rapper.
Okay.
Then getting to the jail at 16 and then composing music and writing it down, right?
Right.
And then love letters that led to poetry.
Okay.
So by the time I'm 22, I have this catalog of poetry and this ability to creatively express myself through spoken word, that I just needed the mentorship to be able to make a product out of it that was legal and moral, and to be able to represent myself, in an executive manner with entrepreneurship through the publishing.
Gotcha. So let me ask you this. How much time did you do?
22 years. 22
years. What year you came home?
I was released in 2019.
And how did you get out?
I was released pursuant to the Incarceration Reduction Amendment Act.
Okay.
Known as IRAA.
IRAA. Okay.
Right.
All right. And so IRAA, for the people that don't know, is a piece of legislation that was passed that afforded individuals that was charged as juveniles in the District of Columbia as adults and were given adult sentences, particularly life sentences or de facto life sentences. De facto life sentence could be any type of sentence that's a substantial amount of time, 30 to life, 40 to life, 50 to life, et cetera, et cetera. And so through IRAA, you had guys like Halim Flowers, me, Kareem McCraney, that were able to get out. We were able to petition the court and show that we had been habilitated and deserved a second chance, because this particular piece of legislation was premised upon brain science. And the brain science has said that the human brain is not really fully developed till around the age of 25 and 26. So therefore, a young person shouldn't be held culpable or to the same standard or level of accountability as an adult, right? And so the purpose of me putting forth these stories is to show that the science was right. Because you have guys like myself, guys like Halim, and 100 other guys that have came home that have been instrumental in so many things. Guys are paying taxes, guys are homeowners, guys have families, guys have businesses, guys came home and went to college, guys are in community, getting rid of conflicts, their violence interrupters, their credible messages, so much more. You know what I mean? And they're having a real impact here in the District of Columbia. There are things that they're doing that really can't be quantified. And so for this particular population to be now threatened, and those that may be coming behind us that's now being threatened to not have that opportunity, we got to push this thing forward. So now what I want to get into, now we about to get into impact, because I want to talk to Halim about, since he's had this opportunity, this second chance to have his life back, what you done with your life since you've been out?
That's a great question, because going back into where I say I didn't change to where I evolved, right? I participated in the Big Brother program in society at the age of 12. But that wasn't enough to evolve me, because my brain just wasn't developed at that time. And so when I met Michael Norwood, Minka, at the age of 21, 22, and being there with him, because I didn't start the publishing company until 2005.
Okay.
Right? So this was a 3-year mentor. So now I'm 25.
Right.
Right? And so I'm more readily, my brain is more mature enough to really to see the vision that he had for me, where I'm at today. And so going into this evolution, to your answering this question, is I was released in March 2019. Upon release, I had my own publishing company. I had published 11 books. And so I had these tools. And so meeting Mark Howard at Georgetown before I got out, and him doing the Georgetown Prisons and Justice Initiative, I had the opportunity to take collegiate courses at the DC Department of Corrections before I got out, 2018, 2019. And it gave me relationships to be able to access Georgetown University to speak, which led to me speaking at George Washington and American universities, which led to Columbia University, Ivy League institution in New York. So from 2019 to 2020, I'm speaking and I'm selling my books, impacting the world, speaking at conferences and universities.
Okay.
March 2020 comes, we go on lockdown. COVID.
Gotcha.
Right? This is when I began to start painting. So at the age of 39, 40, never painted, never drew, never sketched, no knowledge of color theory, any of that. But 40 years of, rapping, freestyle, composing music, books, poetry, spoken word, public speaking. Now I'm communicating myself through visual language.
Okay.
Right? And through that, I was able to get represented by art galleries, New York, London, Paris, Dubai, Liechtenstein, LA, all over the world. And so the impact that I've been able to have in creativity, right? Fashion Week, New York City, collaborating with Warner Brothers, the Queen of England, the Princess of Norway. So through visual art paintings, I give an example. So I'm with a family in Massachusetts.
Okay.
Ultra high net worth family. They have my painting just hanging over their banner in their estate.
Okay.
Directly underneath that is a picture of Trump, right? So the impact that I've been able to have with the art, it knows no boundaries of politics, race, class, gender. People who may never deal with a returning citizen would never feel comfortable introducing them to their home, their families.
Right.
The power of the art has given me impact to sit at the table with kings and peasants.
Right.
Right? The hood and the estates. Castles in France to community public housing in South Central.
Right.
And so this has been an impact that I've been able to have through just developing genuine relationships with ultra high net worth people, family offices, corporations, banks. Did an activation with Blackstone.
Okay.
One of the biggest financial institutions in the world, Blackstone, BlackRock. And so that's pretty much been my impact through my music, my fashion, my art, my public speaking, my publishing. It like I said, it's taken me through royal families to financial institutions to just young guys and young ladies in South Central LA at the Beehive, you know, and all those in between.
And so you've been home, what, 6 years?
6 years.
You've done all this in a 6-year time span.
And maybe a year or two that was during COVID. So it was like
So
restrictions.
really probably about 4 years.
Yeah, like 4 years.
Okay, so it's fair to say that those that passed this legislation on IRA, based upon your personal experience and the experience of others that you know that they came home on IRA, they got it right.
Yeah.
Okay, and I will say this, as with anything, there has been a couple of hiccups along the way with guys that then got out and maybe recidivated. Small number. For every one of them stories, it's 50 stories of guys that then came out here and succeeded. Might have not succeeded all the way monetarily. You know, some people might have different struggles, but they stand down till they get up. You know what I mean? They not going back to the street. They not deviate. They haven't recidivated. But that's with anything. You're going to always have a small portion. But the goal of this thing right here is we're trying to combat what has been said. We're trying to combat what has came down, or what may be coming down the pipe. And we want to have 100 stories at least dealing with this particular legislation just to counter or to get in front of whatever this narrative is that all of a sudden that they're trying to create. Because the guys that then came home on IRA, we're not the problem. We're not responsible for quote unquote crimes that's going on in the city and stuff like that. Most of us are business people. Most of us are community activists. A lot of people got nonprofits. A lot of people are in these communities, and I'm not being redundant with that. I'm saying that intentionally because we out here doing things that other people can't do. We out here doing things that other people don't have the courage to do. We out here going into these different communities, whereas though if we wasn't going into these communities doing the work that we're doing, that we're qualified to do, ain't nobody else gonna do it because they don't have the history, they don't have the experience, nor do they have the qualifications to go into these communities and do the things that we're doing, to stop conflict, to bring in new herbs of culture and stuff like that. So I just want to say this, man, that there's going to be a lot of more stories coming. The next one going to be in about 3 or 4 days. I'm going to keep them going. I'm going to keep it going till these things gain traction and we can prevail in what it is that we're doing, because under no circumstances, man, the threats that are being imposed against us shouldn't even have the possibility of even being a threat. So we're going to keep that going. We're going to have this YouTube page. We're going to put these excerpts of the interview on the gram. All the information will be in there. Bro going to post it on his stuff. Before we go, though, you know, drop something on the people. Give them a jewel or something, man, something to think about. In light of everything that's just going on, you know, people hear things and see things and might not have an in-depth understanding of what's really going on, but just give them some perspective based upon what you're seeing in your experience of, you know, all this nonsense that they demonstrating.
If the interest is public safety, if you look at it systemically, they want to repeal a law that allowed people who were given adult sentences under the age of 18 and then some under the age of 25.
Right.
They want to stop them from getting another opportunity to return to society after 15 years of incarceration.
Right.
Because they feel like it'll be a threat to public safety for people to be able to have the possibility to get out. Right? It wouldn't be a good deterrent.
Right.
However, we're not beginning with our anecdotal evidence, right? So we've had recent periods in American history of mass incarceration, no rehabilitation in the prison system, and under that concept, 7 out of 10 people within 1 to 3 years return to prison with a new conviction. That's the recidivism rate.
Okay.
So keeping in mind America is a business, right? Because funding have to go to Department of Corrections, probation, and this and that. If this was a business model in the private sector, it would be considered a failure, right? Because the goal is what? Public safety.
Right.
So if a person commits a crime and is a threat to public safety, under mass incarceration policies of the 80s and 90s, early 2000s, we're locking them up and throwing away the key, right? Yet and still, the people who are getting out are still coming back. Even though they know that the deterrent is, allegedly the deterrent is the amount of time that they can get. People are still committing crimes.
Right.
They do time, and 7 out of 10 come back within 1 to 3 years with a new charge.
Right.
Right? This is not even counting technical parole, probation violations. The formation of reform with Meek Mill and all this. So now, what we're attempting to do now is to revisit the same policies that failed.
Right.
Right? These things were championed by Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton, Joe Biden, Newt Gingrich. So now we're revisiting these policies that failed under the ostentation of public safety.
Right.
Right? And so now we know that doesn't work. But where I come in at as a creative, this is my importance. I'm a visionary, right? Artists, creators, we don't live in systems, we create worlds. This is how you get Star Wars, you get Marvel Comics, DC Comics. And so it's my responsibility, along with other creatives who are civically aware and civically engaged, to create worlds for people to see beyond incarceration, to reimagine what public safety could look like.
Right.
Because we have examples from other Western developed nations that have public safety.
Right.
They don't have the they don't have the incarceration crime problem that we have. Right? They're not using the solutions that these bills that's going in before the U.S. Congress today to repeal certain things that have been done in the district, to take us back to policies that have failed before. We have other nation states that are developed in the West that don't use this and don't have the problems that we had. And so for me, it's my responsibility to use the relationships I have with people on both sides of the political spectrum, both extremes of class status and economics and race, and to create the documentaries, the music, the poetry, the novellas, the social media posts, the sneakers, the hoodies, the rap songs, the paintings that can give people the sight to see that we cannot incarcerate our way out of the human condition of crime and punishment. Right? We have to reimagine a new way to invest into our children. Instead of lowering the age from 16 to 14 to put them in prison, we have to create new worlds, new systems to get new outcomes. Because revisiting something that didn't work before, we only going to get the same results. And that's the clinical definition for insanity.
And with that, let me say this, bruh, that like through all the different things that have been tried during the war on drugs, when we were super predators, all the way up prior to the IRAA, right? As you mentioned, about 7 out of 10 people recidivating. People do time, they come home, they go back. People do time, they go home and come back. It's like a cycle. Y'all done tried all this stuff, but people still feel how they feel and do what they do, and they'll go in and out of prison. The point that I'm making with that is that for the guys that they came home on IRAA, the vast majority of them ain't go back to prison.
Right.
You understand
It's
what I'm
not
saying?
7 out of 10.
It's not no 7 out of 10.
No.
You understand what I'm saying? So with that being said, it shows that our legislators got it right. The brain science is accurate because people can age out of crime more times than not, especially if they're removed from the environment that they was in and had a chance to actually mentally develop. You understand what I'm saying? And so for all these stories that you're going to hear are going to be interviews of people that personify that and are the example of what this whole legislation was about. You're going to see that. And for anybody that's viewing this and you know these people, none of these people have recidivated. So our legislators got it right. I don't know what people are talking about. I don't know what's going on with this stuff, but we got to defend it and we got to protect it. Give them your Instagram, brother, your contact stuff so people can reach out to you for whatever they may want to reach out to you for. Y'all know mine's Greatness Unlimited. The number 7. Put the YouTube joint in there, man. It's going to be a link in the bio so you can see the whole interview. Give them your stuff, bro.
My Instagram is my name, @Halim Flowers. It's spelled HALIMFLOWERS. @Halim Flowers. And definitely subscribe to the YouTube that this will be on, and share these stories. Our goal is our legislative fight is no longer in DC City Council. These bills will be in the U.S. Congress, in the House and the Senate. And so we have no representation as citizens of the District of Columbia where we have elected representatives in the U.S. Congress. Yet we pay federal taxes as well as local taxes. So we're encouraging those of you who may see this, are not in the District of Columbia, Maryland, Virginia, any of the 50 states in America, to share this and also contact your local House of Representative and your U.S. Senator, and share these stories with them to let them know that the people who have returned to society as former juvenile lifers in the District of Columbia are not committing crimes, are not being arrested, charged, indicted, or convicted, and that to charge 16-year-olds and 14-year-olds as adults, to do away with giving people who are charged as children and under the age of 25 as adults under the ostentation that is going to make the city more safer is not supported by statistics or science. We have great success stories from those of us who were former juvenile lifers who are now doing great things in the world. And we want you to share these stories with your representatives and U.S. senators.
Man, y'all be smart, stay sharp, stay focused. We out.